Hey guys, I've got a minute, so I have an opportunity to field a question, and today's question came from 6 hours ago on Twitter. It's from at Popcorn Power, and he asks, "I wouldn't mind an Alexander Kolpakov recap video of the charges he is facing: manslaughter slash first degree slash second degree. Speculation if he's more likely to go for jury or judge trial, and any insight as to how other plaintiffs in chemically induced killing fare on convictions. For example, how do drunk drivers get convicted when they kill? I'm sure Alexander isn't the only person who has killed a supposed loved one while high on drugs." Um, So for the first part of that question, a recap of the charges. As of right now, prior to the preliminary hearing, Alexander Kolbakov is charged with first degree murder, right? And we have almost 2 months from now till April 26th for there to be a plea arrangement hashed out between his defense lawyers and the prosecution, the DA. And anything can happen between now and then, right? This is the time for that sort of thing to happen. And if they come to an agreement, then that will be the last court date, that preliminary hearing. And then we'll just get a sentencing hearing, and that's it. Maybe. It could be an all in one. But most likely, if that agreement happened, then there'd be no trial. That's the last chance for the DA to get an easy win and say, well, you don't want to plead guilty to first degree murder, but you're going to plead guilty to this other charge that will put you away for a very long time, and I can consider that a win. That's how the justice system works here in America a lot, is just district attorneys being worried about their records and just wanting to have like 95% conviction rates. So I imagine that they might come to him with a deal proposal, at least something, and then he'll have something to mull it over. Like, do I really want to or not? Now, the person who's running the Skeptic Feminist Twitter account right now, who we assume is Athena, and she said in the last volley of tweets that I got from her that Kolpakov will not entertain the thought of pleading guilty to first degree premeditated murder because he says that he loved Heather Annable. And so, yeah, I don't know if she knows something better than anybody else. I don't know how much in contact she could possibly be with him while he's in prison. But to think that he can have, like, a veritable harem of women all wanting to fawn over him. and yeah. Like, how many women was this guy with all at the same time? I don't know. But also, like, how in contact with someone can you be when they're in prison? You know, is this her putting her own wants on his position, or is this actually his position? In 2 months' time, could he realize that he doesn't want to gamble with having extra years of his life taken away for the difference between first degree and second degree, if he knows in his heart what the real answer was? Does he really want to risk going to trial and getting sentenced to twice as much time? These are the issues that will be swimming around in his head, and I can't tell you, what he'll be thinking. But I can say that if anyone were to be stupid enough to hold on to a pedantic point, like, I loved her, and so therefore you're not going to convict me of first degree murder, it wasn't premeditated, it might be this guy. You know, if there's a chance that anyone's going to roll the dice, it'd be this case. You know, because we're dealing with someone that was very prideful when he ran his YouTube channel, and I don't imagine that he's any less prideful. And sometimes about strange things like saying that he was an advocate for women's rights and a feminist and whatnot, and yet still we learn some things behind the scenes where we're like, wow, this doesn't really gel with what a feminist would do. Not the least of which being, murdering your girlfriend, but just having anger issues. It's just, I don't know. The next part of your question was, let's see, how do drunk drivers get convicted when they kill? If you're talking about, well, they weren't in control of their faculties because they were intoxicated, so we can't hold them culpable. Well, I guess the way the logic works is you're responsible for the things that you ingest, and you're responsible for all your actions that you do while you are under the influence of the things that you chose to ingest, right? So, be it roid rage, murder, or murder by way of vehicular homicide while you're intoxicated, it's just basically you did the drug, you knew that you were putting it in your system, and so you're still responsible for everything that you did while you were under the influence. Now, I see a defense forming in Kolpakov's statements. I see the foundation for defense in that he may not have been aware of all of the substances that he was taking, such as perhaps the mushrooms were laced with PCP, which he may have thought that he was only taking mushrooms, which is a very strange defense to throw up there. I didn't mean to do PCP, I only meant to do mushrooms. So I can't possibly be responsible for, killing someone and thinking that they were a space alien monster who came to poison me. Because mushrooms don't do that. It was the PCP part. That's... Wow. I hope that's not his defense, right? But I do see the foundations for that having been laid by him in some of his statements. Also, there's another scenario which is a little bit stronger of a defense, which I think even if that previous defense were actually what he was trying to set up before he lawyered up and was given his public defender, I see this other defense being set up, and the parallel would be something like this. So, a bartender serves a customer at last call, a customer that he should have cut off, and gives him another 2 double shots of mudslide, right? And then, right after the bar closes, bartender gets in his car, he's driving along the highway, and the same person that he gave too much alcohol to, the same person he was serving, runs him off the road, and the bartender is either injured or dies. It doesn't matter whichever happens in the scenario, right? Um, the bartender is responsible for cutting people off. There's legal precedent where bartenders can be held accountable for the uh, vehicular homicides that happen after somebody leaves a bar. And so bartenders have cut people off very frequently in the last decade since this kind of became the norm, right? If the bartender was partially guilty for not cutting the person off from the alcohol that he was giving them, and the alcohol that he was giving them was increasingly reducing their inhibitions for drinking more, then the bartender would in part be responsible for his own having been run off the road. Right, he'd be responsible for his own injuries because part of what led to it was his own actions. Now, if we were to apply this kind of a defense for Alexander's situation, we could say maybe that he did not know what the effects of mushrooms would be, and all he was going on was the information that Heather maybe gave him about how it might help him with his PTSD. And if that's the kind of defense that he's going for, I think it's a matter of how informed should we require people to be about the drugs that they're putting in their system. Um, is it okay to trust a loved one about how the effects of a drug are going to affect you? I mean, definitely, we've all been in a situation where a friend or loved one has said, "Hey, try this special pineapple mimosa. You know, it's delicious, and it hits that spot just right. You know, or whatever it is that you've been pressured into drinking. Hey, this beer tastes great." You know, and you trust that family member that there's no added special ingredient in that cocktail. You trust that family member that they have had an experience with that thing that was pleasurable before, but that doesn't mean that you're going to have a pleasurable experience. You just trusted them, and it's not like when somebody offers you a different brand of beer and puts it right in front of you that you should be required to do a bunch of reading about reviews of the beer and how it affects you. You know, you just have this general idea of how alcohol might have affected you, maybe based on personal experience, or maybe this is your first drink. But you know, people get pressured into drinking without probably going down to their local library and reading up on the effects of alcohol. You know. And so, how much could we expect somebody who's doing mushrooms to know about how those mushrooms are going to affect him? You know, how much do we want to require of someone? Should he have gone down to the library and researched what could possibly happen if I take mushrooms? And even if he did, would one of the things that he would find, if he had done research on it, would have one of those things been, "Oh, you may be likely to murder someone if you take mushrooms"? You know, I can see the defense maybe trying to use this angle. Um, Personally, I feel like if that's your best defense, maybe jockeying for a better plea deal would be your best option. Um, and that's why I feel like it's really important for me to be there on April 26th. because I believe that the best case scenario for him would be to take some sort of plea deal. And I know that whoever's running the Skeptic Feminist account, who I assume is Athena, she does not believe that he would accept a plea deal, especially if it's about first-degree murder. But even if that's the only plea he can get, if throwing himself at the mercy of the court and taking that harsher sentence is the best plea deal he can get, it's probably better than not taking responsibility for your actions even after months of being able to reflect on it and just showing the court that you have a lack of proper remorse for the gravity of what you did. You know, that's the kind of thing that gets maximum sentences put on a person. There's even a range of play as far as with these plea deals. Like if he takes the maximum sentence, he can also get the maximum level sentence. If he takes first degree murder, he can also get the towards the lower end of the range of years that the judge could sentence him to. If you bother a court to take you to trial to prove that you're guilty, and then you are proven guilty, and you show that you're by putting up this strange defense that you are willing to not take responsibility for what you did, the judge is going to sentence you to probably more years than you have left on this planet. You know. And yeah, by the time he's old and crusty, maybe there's some couple years after serving out, 25 to 30, 40, 50 years of a sentence. Maybe there's a couple years that he could get on the outside of a prison if he plays his cards right. If it comes down to him only being offered first degree murder and a guarantee of a lower prison sentence. Those are my thoughts on it as far as speculation at this point, and I'm sure that I'll have some other thoughts when I go to the preliminary hearing on April 26th. Hope to see any of you there, and right afterwards, remember, go into Roosters for some chicken wings. It's downtown Grand Junction. Can't miss it. Good stuff in there. Check you all later.